All right, we got a return guest this week, and you're going to like it. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho, where we are having one hell of a wet spring, and I think I'm digging it. This week I've got a friend, somebody I've been friends with for a long time. I've been trying to get him to vow to never pull me over and give me a speeding ticket if I'm ever in Nampa, Florida. I almost said Nampa, Florida, Rodger. Nampa, Idaho. Before I get him on and get him to make that vow, we are going to... I just need to take care of a couple of quick announcements real quick. So the first one being is if you guys are on Facebook and you are not in the group that is called Hunting the West - the Western Huntsman. I only keep my Facebook because of like some of these specific groups, and the thing that I like about this group is it's people that listen to this show that help me with a lot of questions that I have regarding the show and give me a lot of feedback on it, and it's a cool place to post it, if you shoot a bear or whatever you're out there chasing. And so it's by design a smaller group, a smaller knit group, but we are trying to grow it a little bit just so that we can get a little bit more feedback, because I am announcing that we're going to be starting a new series. If you guys have been listening to the show for a while, you know we do the School of September series. It's a bonus series on the show, and then we do our regular episodes, and we're going to add another series that is going to be designed for brand new hunters or youth hunters, where I'm actually going to keep it the very G-rated, clean language, no cussing, all that kind of stuff, which we don't do on our normal shows, and most of you know that. And so the idea is, if we have youth hunters out there that you guys, as parents, want to have them listen to stuff, the idea is the stuff that they don't learn in hunter's education. Or if you're an adult that is just thinking about getting into hunting, and you want more than just the, here's your hunting safety, kind of stuff. Here's how to carry a rifle. Hunter's ed doesn't really get into the nuts and bolts of what you need to know, especially if you're one of those people that are getting into it without in-person hunting mentor. This episode, or I'm sorry, that series of episodes is going to be that for you. It's going to be your what should I call it, Rodger? Like the hunting mentor in your dashboard or something like that.
There you go. Yeah. I'd call it that.
Yeah, something like that. And so that's going to be kind of the idea behind it. And so the point of me telling you both of those things is I just posted in Hunting the West - the Western Huntsman on Facebook a question for some feedback, audience feedback, about what types of episodes we should be having in there, because I've got things like hunting ethics, I've got things like, understanding, without boring people to death, understanding the basics of like the North American model of conservation and how that ties into being a hunter and how hunting ties into conservation, so that young hunters can understand that in a layman's way without getting into super boring, detailed, long explanations of it. A basic understanding is really all you need. And then we're going to go into like foundational deer hunting, like mule deer, foundational whitetail hunting. Again, less about tips and strategies and stuff, and more about becoming an ethical hunter and a good steward of the sport that is hunting. and how to get started without, spending a small fortune and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's my point. Hopefully you guys will jump on there and help answer some of these questions, because each episode I'm going to be asking that group specific questions about that episode and what their kind of feedback is. There's going to be a woodsmanship episode. There's going to be all sorts of stuff in there. So stay tuned for that. And I'm hoping to have one of the first episode of that out in the next week or two, actually, because Rodger and I are recording here on, what is today, the 23rd?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the 23rd. So I'll have this live tomorrow. You good with that, Rodger?
Absolutely.
Put you on the spot, man. I'm gonna let this thing loose tomorrow. No, it's perfect, guys. I want to welcome back Rodger Hol. And he is, like I said, a past guest. Rodger, did you come on for your own episode, or were you on with the Initial Ascent guys?
Yeah, I was on with Dennis. So me and Dennis were on there talking about the packs. Yeah, I think it was July 2020, I believe. Mm-hmm. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. And but you are with the Nampa Police Department. And at what point are you going to fully commit to me that I can freely drive through Nampa without getting a ticket?
Man, that's tough, because I don't write a whole lot of tickets. I do a lot of traffic, but I don't write a whole lot of tickets.
Okay. Well, I might need some tips, dude, because I have to give a shout out to the Sandpoint, Idaho Police Department, for they pulled me over and gave me a speeding ticket a few weeks ago on the Long Bridge. And those of you familiar with North Idaho, you know how bad it sucks getting pulled over on the Long Bridge, because it's super narrow and it's going across Ponderay Lake. There's like nowhere to pull over, and I'm trying to get this guy to kind of follow me a little further so I can get off further for him. And finally I was like, okay, this is about as wide as it's going to get. Pulls me over, and then he's pissed that I didn't pull over sooner.
Yeah, that's a catch-22 on that one.
yeah. I've seen too many videos of dudes getting hit on the highway, getting pulled over. The
was it a motorcycle cop?
No, he had like an SUV. Yeah,
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. I knew he was. I knew I was busted too, because I was trying to pass this truck, and I was going to try to talk my way out of the ticket, but it turns out, Rodger, I was guilty as hell. I was hauling ass across this trying to pass this truck. So, anyway, fun story.
The whole talking the way out of the ticket thing, it very rarely works. Personally, I look for what I like to call extreme ownership. Right? You ever heard of Jocko Willink?
Oh yeah, man, I read
and his extreme ownership stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of what I look for. And if people are like, man, you're right, you got me, I was speeding, yep, no excuses, it just sits a little bit better with me, I think, when because we're really all traffic control is just trying to mold people's behavior to really obey the law, right, and everything. And so if that's what I'm trying to do, if I think that not giving somebody a ticket is going to mold their behavior into the way that or the way that the law wants people to drive, then, you don't get a ticket. But, you look at their driving record and they get 6 speeding tickets in the last 3 months, and it's like, all right, then you hit them with a financial reminder of what the laws are, which is a ticket, I guess. But
yeah, my ticket was like $90 or something. But I got a question about that. When a guy gets pulled over, because that's what I did, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan. Okay, we're gonna go down a little rabbit trail. I had Jocko Willink's assistant lady or something commit Jocko to come on my show.
No kidding.
And then I booked out for 2 weeks from this time, and this was when the show was brand new. I don't even know how I did that. 2 weeks before, or it was 2 weeks out, and a week before we were scheduled to record, I get a message from her saying that something has come up. Unfortunately, he can't join you on the show. And I tried to reach back out and try to get him to come on the show again, and they wouldn't come back and answer me, because I think what happened is my show was new. There, not very many downloads, and so it kind of felt like a waste of time. And but I love that book, especially the audio version, because they put those sound effects in there. It really brings it to life. So, and then the follow-up book.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Leif and Jocko are the ones that are reading the audio version, and exactly. I'm a terrible reader, so I listen to the audio books, and I'm tinkering in the garage at night, listening to those, and it's powerful stuff. That is really.
It really is, and it's. I thought that the idea of taking like military leadership and trying to incorporate it into corporate America, I thought it was kind of a hokey idea at first. But when I listened to the book, they have a way of tying it into like this common sense, applicable way that you don't have to be like some military person to understand it, right? You don't have to be a Navy SEAL to know how that translates.
And it's not groundbreaking stuff, right? The principles have been around forever, but it's the way, I think it's their delivery and the way they present that information to everybody. I mean, it's great stuff. Their company, Echelon Front, is doing department-wide training with us. So for a year, we're going through the book, doing the workbook, and having these discussions with the Echelon Front guys. Yeah, I really applaud my department for that, because it's huge stuff. It's really changed my life.
It is, and that's you nailed it, man. The way that you can, because they have a way of telling the story as to how they formed this philosophy, if you will, in combat Iraq or wherever the heck they were at. They were all over the place, and how that applies to your life as just an American adult, and how to take that ownership and ownership of your life, because I think that that's lacking in America with a lot of it's not even a generational thing. I don't think it's like a Generation X or a millennial thing or a Gen Z thing. I think that it's just like this mentality of we've gotten to this level of comfort in the United States brought on by this system that has worked so well that some people can argue till they're blue in the teeth whether or not it's worked, but just take a look at your situation. If you can't get the new iPhone, your life sucks in your mind, and that's as bad as you have it. Give me a freaking break. Go to Africa, go to some of these other countries that I've been to, and tell me how bad you have it. Anyway, beside the point. Man, I'm riled up tonight, apparently.
Oh man, Jeez. we could go down that rabbit hole for a minute.
We totally can, but I mean that's just, it's like people don't take accountability for their actions, and they wonder why their life is a freaking shit show. It's nuts.
It's like I said, I do a lot of traffic stuff, so I deal with a lot of DUIs, and man, they seem to be the worst. Drunks are the worst at blaming other people, right? Like it's my fault that they're being arrested for a DUI. Like I shoved the beer down their throat, and that is just it's hard to swallow the lack of accountability and the lack of ownership on like blaming everybody else for your problems except for you. When you're the one that's making the decisions.
It's such a great point, man. And I learned that the hard way. I don't know if I've ever said this on the show, but I got an aiding and abetting to a DUI when I was in the Marines in North Carolina.
Oh no.
And I what's funny is I took full ownership of this, and the judge talked me out of like just fessing up to it, because she's like, well, even aiding and abetting, you're going to lose your license. And the scenario, not that I'm proud of it, but it was kind of a funny situation when we made one of our new Marines drive us to the bar, but it was my truck. And it was dollar beer night. It was like a Wednesday night, dollar beer night at this bar called Tar Heels just outside of Jacksonville, North Carolina. If there's other Marines that were stationed out there, they're going to know exactly where I'm talking about. And I mean, and that's what it was, dollar beer night. Well, lo and behold, this new Marine that we recruited to be our designated driver got toasted without us knowing, because we didn't let him hang out with us. He was a boot.
Yeah, right.
And then he's like, he's acting all normally, and probably we were just too drunk to even notice. Walks back out to my truck. I drank so much beer that I'm throwing up out my passenger window. The cop notices that, pulls us over, and I was expecting everything to be fine because this dude was supposed to be our DD. And the cop asked him, how much have you had to drink? And this Marine looked at the cop and he said, well, sir, it was dollar beer night at Tar Heels, so I can tell you I lost track. and I'm drunk, and I'm like,
man.
what the fuck, man? And so
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one.
we went to jail. We went to the slammer.
Well, man, you're not the only one. I've had to look myself in the face in the mirror, and really have to analyze the way my life was going. And, and it's pretty recent too when this extreme ownership stuff came up for me.
Yeah.
And so, man, I can't recommend that book enough to anybody, parents, people in law enforcement, anybody. Like, that book can hit home for anybody.
Anybody, yeah. If you run a small business and you have, a team of people, 5 or 6 people, buy the books for everybody and like go through it as a company. Yeah, just anything. It's so applicable. Even a stay-at-home mom would benefit from the principles in the book. So, man, I feel like we need to get Jocko on. Like,
dude, it's powerful, especially coming from him. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. Everybody listening to this, send Jocko a message on like Instagram and see if he reaches out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, right.
The question I had going back to when you pull somebody over and they take your license. See, I go down rabbit trails, but I keep track, man.
I'm glad you keep track, because I didn't.
You take their license back to the car and you pull it up. Does it like give you the record of how many speeding tickets and all that?
Yeah, for the state, at least in like Idaho, if I ran your driver's license, it would come up with pretty much every time you've been cited, DUIs, citations, anything like that. If you've taken like I think it's like a driver's safety, like a traffic course usually for kids, so they have it's called a Live at 25 course. That'll get wiped off your record, but pretty much everything else is in there.
Okay. So mine didn't look too shabby. I only get pulled over, I don't know, I drive a lot, man, but I get pulled over probably every other year, and about every other time I get a ticket. So I've got a pretty good record.
Hey man, I get pulled over too. It's kind of one of those things. It's hard to drive and not do something you get pulled over for.
So what's that conversation like? You say like, no, wait a minute. What are you pulling me over for, bro? I'm a cop.
Oh,
dude.
No, I never question it. It's not a good idea to start questioning it.
Yeah,
usually people get a piece of paper with a court date if they want to argue it.
Yeah, for sure. So, it begs the question, Rodger. Like, what is the most ridiculous thing somebody has said to you to try to get out of a speeding ticket? Or a DUI or something. Like, what is there something that sticks in your mind where it's like, I can't believe that story? Because you see the jokes on social media, right?
Yeah. Man, I've really throughout the years I've said that I need to keep like a record of some of these funny moments to like write a book later on. Everybody says that, but and it's kind of one of those that I can't think of anything right now that comes to mind, but as soon as we got off the phone, right, it'll like pop in my head, and I remember it.
Well, post it in the Hunting the Western Huntsman group.
Exactly. That's what I say it for.
Well, we've been talking a lot. We decided that obviously you've had just recently one hell of a bear season, and so that's kind of what I wanted to bring you on for. And here's the reason why: because this whole spring bear thing, it fluctuates so much regionally. Like you mentioned before we started recording, that there's probably guys still out there hunting. Well, I haven't even started bear hunting because I can't get to my spot because of the snow. And so that I believe is going to change by this weekend. I think I'll be able to get up to my area. I checked it like mid last week, and it's still just enough where I'm not driving my truck through that. So I have until the end of June to fill my bear tag. I know there's other units in Idaho. I'm not sure. I saw today that Montana is closing down one unit because the harvest quota was met. Yeah. And I can't remember, my buddy Cody, or I'm sorry, he explained the Wyoming where that season, when that ended. Now I'm totally drawing a blank. Gosh, I'll I'll text him. Anyway, so there's still a lot of bear hunters out there. So I want to talk a little bit about your philosophy, because you're a great bear hunter, man. I really.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would. We've been buddies for long enough. I can say you're a great bear hunter. You super passionate about it. Obviously, I could see it in the way you kind of tell the story, and how important it is to you. Whether you're because you took your dad out and he got one too, didn't he?
Yep. Yeah, I got him one.
Is it now? Does he live in Idaho?
No, he's a California resident still.
So he comes over and you took him out, and so he got one, you got one, and we should probably throw a shout out that you packed those bears out on a good old fashioned initial ascent pack, right?
Yes, sir.
Give Dennis some love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sitting right next to me right now, actually.
Well, so I guess that wouldn't apply for you because you're not baiting, are you? You did like a spot and stop?
No. Yeah.
So the one question I would have for Dennis is, if he sees me posting pictures of hunting bear, I'm baiting, and I do not want my pack to smell like the Batum 907 products that I get, because it is raunchy, man. So I've got this old Alberta stock that I'm going to be packing bait in. And so if Dennis sees that, I don't want him to take offense, because I love my initial ascent and I'm trying to protect it.
Yeah. Well, you ever heard of, well, I'm sure you know the Velvet Antler Technology guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, their Velvet Scrub stuff will get that smell right out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. It's pretty powerful. It smells really good, too, but that stuff, I don't know if I've ran into anything that thing won't get out.
That's good to know, man, because I'm going to look into that, because I don't know if somebody listening to this has never handled the Batum 907 products. I mean, this stuff is ripe. And I mean, when I say ripe, I don't mean it smells bad. I mean it is just potent. It actually is kind of a pleasant smell, except it's so powerful. So I have it in this plastic bin in one of my little tent shelters here on the property. And it got some moisture in it, so I opened the bin up and set it out in the sun. Within an hour, anywhere you went on this 26 acres, you could smell this shit. I mean, it is so strong. And so
you'll be baiting bears from your backyard.
I could. There was a little guy hanging around last fall. I was gonna get him too, because I didn't get a bear. I've never shot a bear, man.
Man.
I just started bear hunting, so it's only been a couple of years. This is my third season and only my second season of actually taking it serious. So this is why it's good to have you on, because I'm a rookie, dude. Let's start with having you kind of walk us through your story. And I don't know if you'd prefer to kind of maybe talk about your dad's bear first or yours, but yours is an incredible story. And if anybody's following you on Instagram, you could have read the whole thing, or Facebook, but on Instagram, you're backcountry _ Baba Yaga or something like that.
Yeah. Backcountry _ BA _ YAGA.
That's right. Okay. Tell me about that name first. Where does that come from?
Yeah. You ever seen the movie John Wick, or heard of the movie John Wick?
Yeah.
So they call them Baba Yaga, which I think in the Russian, the Slavic culture, it means boogeyman.
That's right. You know what? Now that you say that, I know that makes sense.
Yeah. So this is something I thought was kind of neat, so I threw it on there, and haven't changed it in years.
That's actually a pretty badass name, man. I like that name. That's cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So, we can start with mine. Let's
walk through your story, man. I think listeners will get a lot out of that because of your process. You just to clarify, it's a spot and stock hunt in Idaho. And this is big country. From the pictures you posted, this is big country we're talking about. Where it's not like the jungle of North Idaho. It's open, sporadic, high country. I don't know. You describe it better without giving the unit away, obviously.
I don't care. I'm not going to tell people exactly where it's at, but it's public land, and there's a lot of that country to go around, I think, personally. But there's, I think, starting off, because I hunt in such a wide open country, I mean, your shots, you could shoot for long ways out in this the areas that I hunt. So I usually start off. I mean, I'm big into the kind of long range precision stuff, tinkering with my rifles, getting them shooting good, hand loading. So that's kind of the basis of all my stuff. When I said I'm not a very good bear hunter, I would consider myself a above average shooter and still pretty novice bear hunter. But just because of my shooting ability, I've been able to harvest some pretty decent bears up here in a short amount of time. But it's starting with, that getting a rifle, and not necessarily just getting the rifle, but being proficient enough with the rifle to make, 500-600 yard shots.
Can I ask
Sure.
what rifle it is?
Yeah, I built I kind of went down a rabbit hole myself, and last spring built a 300 Winchester short mag. I had a Browning in that cartridge and loved it, but was being a hand loader, I shoot a lot, so I was getting to the point where I was going to burn out that barrel. So I was like, well, I might as well build another one. So I went through the process from a stripped Remington 700 action, buying the tools myself, the hand tools from PTG and Pacific Tool and Gauge, and basically truing up that action myself, buying a pre-fit barrel, headspacing it all myself, buying a stock from Graybow Phoenix stock, bedding the action and everything into the stock, rifle, just optics and everything. Did it all myself, and hand loads and whatnot. So it's basically a 24-inch 300 Winchester short mag, and it weighs about 10.5 pounds the way I have it set up. That's with a bipod, sling, everything else, which I think is a good weight. It's not stupid ultralight. The problem with an ultralight rifle is that they're inherently harder to shoot. A lighter rifle, you're going to have more of a wobble zone, so your crosshairs, it's going to be harder to keep them steady. Their recoil is going to be much more intense. So I like that 10-pound range for a Magnum rifle, especially a 30 cal Magnum.
I was kind of looking into that at some point, and somebody was talking about, gosh, where was that? Talking about, you want to have a lightweight rifle to get further kind of thing. And I remember thinking, a smooth bore 42 Springfield Civil War musket weighs 9 pounds without the bayonet and without the sling. Yeah. And those guys would hump that bad boy 20-30 miles a day barefoot. I think I can handle a 10-pound rifle going into the backcountry.
Yeah. Well, and my philosophy on that is, when I get there, and I'm going to get there, 2 pounds on a rifle is not going to make or break me getting to a spot.
Yeah.
Right. If in the grand scheme of things, right, 2 pounds is nothing. It's 3/4 of a liter of water or something, but it's not keeping me from getting there, but it could keep me from making that shot. Right. Guys that have these
ultra lightweight
Weatherbees, or these 300 Weatherbee rifles that are just punishing people. They don't want to shoot them because they're uncomfortable to shoot, and so they're not practicing enough with them. Well, I would rather have a rifle that I could practice with. I've got 800-900 rounds to this rifle in a little over a year out of a Magnum.
Dang, man.
People don't shoot that kind of stuff with a anything. Most people don't shoot that much in a lifetime with their hunting rifle.
Yeah.
But it's kind of afforded me the ability to be intimately familiar with that rifle and what it's capable of. And so, just being able to trust that rifle that much, that's what I prefer. And really, guys will spend. I had a guy ask me not too long ago. He was like, "Hey, I've been looking at that new Weatherby Backcountry TI 2.0, whatever. It's like, I don't know, sub 6 pounds or something. It's stupid light. I can't remember off the top of my head." Well, his rifle was only like 3/4 of a pound heavier. And I'm like, dude, you're going to spend $3,000 to save 3/4 of a pound? I'm like, why don't you buy, a lightweight down jacket Why don't you buy a quilt? You could spend that money more wisely elsewhere and shave way less or way more weight, and then still have a rifle that's shootable.
So
I changed up my sleep system and I shaved it in half, which I guess affords me the ability to carry a 10-pound rifle.
So that's a good, interesting philosophy, I guess, is one way to put it. And it leads me to one question that I'll kind of hold for a minute. But instead of skimping on the weight of the rifle in order to get a rifle that you feel is going to be just a better shooter for you, obviously, you're gonna your message is don't skimp on the weight of the rifle, skimp on the other things, where it's not even skimping really. It's just buying the right kind of gear that is lighter weight, like I guess I'll throw them a shout out. I sponsored by Scree, and all their stuff is super lightweight, but it's super effective, right? So I could pack all that stuff in there and stay a lot warmer than the chintzy stuff I had years ago, and stay a lot warmer. So I guess what's bothering me with this topic is I posted a question regarding a youth rifle. So I have two daughters, right? And maybe you can answer this because sure. I'm getting answers all over the place. One of my daughters is a left-handed shooter. She is not left-handed. She's just a left-handed shooter. She's left eye dominant.
She's left eye dominant. Okay.
Yeah, and she feels a lot more comfortable shooting with on her left shoulder. Totally fine. Except it costs Daddy a lot more money because I can buy a right-handed rifle and a left-handed rifle. The problem is right now, and I don't know what the deal is. This didn't seem to be a problem a few years ago, but finding a left-handed rifle right now is a bitch. I mean, I can't find them. I can't find it in the 6.5. I can't find it in the 7mm08, which is what I bought my other daughter, which is a perfect round for them. I can't find it in a 243. None of those smaller rounds I can find. So what I did, I got talked into this, so I want you to tell me if I made a mistake and I need to fix it, or if this will work. But I bought her a 308, which is a great cartridge in my opinion. And it is obviously left-handed, and I'm gonna run it down to a buddy of mine who's a gunsmith and have him put like a muzzle brake on it and use some smaller rounds.
Perfect.
Do you think that'll work? Because it's not a super heavy rifle. It is a lighter weight rifle, but is it gonna? I mean, she's just teeny. She's
so it's gonna thump, right? It's gonna thump. I got a short barrel. I got a Ruger. It's an M77 Gunsight Scout and 308 16-inch barrel. Thing's gonna thump, right? It's gonna be a little bit louder because you got a little bit shorter barrel and the muzzle brake, but it's a 308. It's gonna thump a little bit more than a 7mm 08. But if you put 150s, the lighter weight class of bullets are even down. I mean, they make 110s.
Do they really?
You put lighter. Oh yeah. 308s. That caliber, 308 caliber, has got a ton of bullet selection, and you can, if you're a hand loader or know somebody that is, you can download those loads to where they're going, lower velocity. So you're pushing a lighter weight bullet, and that's what's creating your recoil, right? Is the mass of the bullet and then how much powder you're burning. So if you got a lightweight bullet and you're downloading these charges to minimum charge weights, you're going to have that 308 that's going to recoil like a 6.5 Creedmoor kind of a thing.
Okay, so if you as Rodger, how if I could find something between 110, 130, how far out would Rodger shoot with that? I mean, she's 11, so we're not talking about 300, 400, or 500 yard shots here. Yeah,
you're still going to be capable, right? How many people have been killing deer with 243s, right? That's generally probably true. those people that are shooting 243s, because of the twist rate of the standard 243, you're going to be shooting 90, 95 grain, 100 grain bullets. So you're still going to be fine. You're going to have enough energy. You're going to have enough velocity to depending on, I guess, what your starting velocity is, but you're going to have enough for, 200-yard shots easy on something like that.
Cool.
It really comes down to what she's comfortable with.
Well, I didn't mean to derail the story. I just it's like
I really enjoy talking this stuff. So man,
no, that's
no
cool, man. I'm glad you do, because I don't know a ton about that. I'm not like a gun enthusiast. I use them strictly as a tool to hunt.
Yep.
And I love shooting. Well, I mean, that's not true. I love going out and tinkering with a couple of my different rifles. And I love buying rifles. Don't tell my wife. I love buying rifles, and I do enjoy shooting. I think one of the things that happened to me is, and I think this happens to a lot of like military infantry guys, we get out and we spent so much time shooting, and it was like a job that we got kind of sick of it.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was, and so I'm not, and I've explained this on the podcast too. It's the same thing with archery. I'm not like you have a lot of people that are way into going to these 3D archery shoots, and that's like their hobby. They're archery enthusiasts, or they're gun enthusiasts. And to me, that's a separate entity outside of hunting. Where hunting, I shoot enough that I know that I'm proficient, but 900 rounds in a year like you do, I don't know that I could prioritize the time for that.
Well,
for
and
me,
it's, I guess time is a big thing, but it's, especially right now with the ammo shortage, nobody wants to shoot that much because they can't get the ammo anywhere.
Yeah, and that was another advantage with the 308 is the ammo's pretty readily available.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
So I just real quick, while we were talking about this, I looked up. So Barnes has down to 110 grain copper bullets. They're TSX bullets, and tip TSX bullets at 100 grains. You could push those things with, reasonable charge at 3,000 feet a second out of a 308.
No kidding.
Yeah, up to 2,500 if you wanted to put some power behind it.
And 110 with the muzzle brake, I'm going to venture to guess that that's not going to be a heck of a lot more dramatic than that 7mm 08.
No, it'd probably be less than a full charge 7mm 08. You're probably going to be down into especially if a starting charge weight on those things, you're still 3,000 feet a second on a low minimum charge weight on that. And that's you're going to be down in that 243 range, kind of a thing with those. So that's where I would probably start is some type of a monometal bullet like a Barnes.
I'm gonna, when we're done recording, man, at some point I'm gonna message you, because I still need to put optics on this rifle and all that stuff. So it's gonna be a while before I take her out and shoot it. But I want to get her probably, no later than next month. I want her to put, a good 100 rounds through this thing before hunting season starts. So
yeah. And what rifle did you get her?
It's the. Hold on, I've just acquired a couple of different rifles here. I have a Tikka TX3 7mm that I actually won at a banquet.
Oh, nice. Is it a Remington Magnum?
Yes. The 308. The 308?
No. The Tikka.
The 7. Yes, it's a Remington Magnum.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed, man. I don't even know what the hell the 308 is. I just.
That's all right.
It was the one and only left-handed rifle. My buddy Mark, who owns the shop in Coeur d'Alene, that. Hold on one sec, buddy. Hold on one sec.
There's
sorry guys.
Hornady just came out with their new CX bullets, the kind of a modified GMX, the new version of the GMX bullet. Hornady right now on Midway, those 110 grain CSX or CX bullets are in stock, perfect. So that would be
sweet.
That'd be a good choice. Yeah.
Guys, just real quick, that we got interrupted there for a little second there. Sorry about that. Had an audio issue, but we're back, and yeah. So anyway, my buddy Mark owns that Triple B Guns in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's where I try to buy most of my guns if he's got them, because he's a cool dude. He's a fellow Marine, and he hooked me up with this left-handed rifle. It's a great gun, and so I feel like you're making me feel a lot better, because I had some, I think I posted the question in that group I was talking about earlier, and I had some good feedback, and a lot of people are saying, the 6.5 Creedmoor or the 7mm08, and I agree with that, except I can't find one in the left-handed rifle setup right now. And so I'm kind of I felt like I was kind of backed into a corner. And then I went into Triple B Guns, and Mark's like, yeah, man, I got this 308, and if you put a muzzle brake, anyway, you made me feel a lot better about it. So
Not good.
Yeah, it'll be a good rifle for her. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. As long as she gets out and has fun shooting it, man, that's all that matters.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and they do, man. I can't even express, because your youngster's still super young. But I can't even express how much fulfillment comes out of taking your kids hunting. I just, there's no words for it. So anyway, what's funny is, if I would have bought a rifle for myself, my wife would have been sideways with me. But because I bought a rifle for her, right?
Yeah.
You see my angle? Right?
Yep, 100%. Yeah. And just crunching some numbers too, man. Sorry, Rob, thinking about it.
Go for it.
Just crunch some numbers with that, 3,000 feet a second with that bullet and everything. You're still above the 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, what everybody says is the benchmark for, deer, I guess, and over 2,000 feet a second, still at 400 yards with that setup. So, you're solid to,
Dang, man.
Yeah, you're good. That would be a good load.
You were serious. You geek out with this stuff.
Yeah.
So where does that come from, Rodger? Is that part have you always been passionate about the shooting aspect of it and the ballistics and all the things that you like to geek out with, or is that something that kind of developed from being in law enforcement, or talk to me about that?
Well, not really, man. Growing up in California, I was a bow hunter. That's all I did. I didn't even own a rifle over a 22-250 for years. I mean, until I got into law enforcement, and then I got an AR, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, a buddy of mine, Chris Allis, he was a sheriff's deputy, just had to medically retire due to an injury, but a sheriff's deputy down there, and he was geeking out on all this stuff and kind of got me into it. But it hasn't been terribly long since I've been doing all this stuff, probably 5 years, 6 years, but it's something that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to really devote a lot of time and energy in knowing as much as I can.
See,
I don't like to,
dudes like me who are not super technical about anything. I'm not super technical about anything with this kind of stuff. It's same with bows, man. People ask me, they're like, well, what's your, what's this and what's that about
front
your
center?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I just know how to point the bow. I don't even know what kind of freaking arrows I have. Actually, that's not true. I do, but just stuff like that. Dudes like me need dudes like you as friends, because I can call you up and I can be like, hey, Rodger. Dude, how do I shoot this rifle? What do you set up? How do I set it up?
Yeah. It gets expensive though, just geeking out this much, because like you said, all the tooling and all the stuff I have. Yeah. But I do the same with archery too, and it's coming up on archery season, so it's time for me to start geeking out on that. But
that's the thing, and so the key to my strategy that makes it work for me is building a network of experts like you. And I just dropped my bow off this morning to my buddy Eric Warren over at his archery shop, which he makes custom strings, right? And so he's going to put these kick-ass strings. He just put the strings on my my buddy's bow, and they look pretty cool. So he's going to put some on my new, which I don't need strings on my bow, dude. And I don't know what the advantage is, other than he says you don't have to wax them. And so, whatever. That's how we roll. Yeah. Anyway, we got sidelined, man, or sidetracked there. Walk us through back to, because this bear story, it kind of hit me, and like I told you before I started recording, I didn't want to read all the details in, like you did this storyline where every day you were posting a chunk of the bear hunt story, and it kept everybody like, you should be like a Hollywood scriptwriter or something, because it kept everybody on like the edge of their seat. And after the third time you posted, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get him on the show to talk about this. So I don't want to like know all the details so we can get the full story. And so I don't remember where we left off. Yeah, maybe it was just the weight of your rifle.
Yeah, we were just, I think, talking about where it started or how my process starts or something. We went into the rabbit hole that is rifle build, but
yeah.
So
15 minutes later.
I'm pretty new in the grand scheme of things to bear hunting. In California, I ended up killing a bear with my bow, but it was we had a bear tag in case we ran into a bear during deer season, kind of a thing, which I always recommend people do. If you're not a bear hunter, at least have a tag in your pocket.
Yeah.
But when I moved up here in fall of 2018, I kind of made sure that we got here soon enough, I guess, the 6-month period to become a resident, so I can get my resident tag and everything for spring bear season, because that was something I've always wanted to do, but we didn't have that opportunity in California. So the first year I moved up here, got into it, got a nice bear my first day out, which nobody's more surprised than I was that I got it done, but kind of a thing with the shooting played a huge role into that. Second year, didn't get one. Last year, got a really nice bear. Again, same thing. Shooting 100% played more of a role into that than anything. And then same thing with this year. So it's, I focus more on the weapon side of things, whether it's archery or whether it's rifle stuff. I know there's a lot of people that are big into fitness, and I know that is a weakness of mine. I need to, and I'm not in bad shape. I'm just not in the shape that I could be in.
I've seen pictures of you, dude. You're not in bad shape at all.
No, I'm sporting the dad bod, but it's,
but you wear the dad bod well, man. I mean, come on.
Shoot.
And so
I've never had, I guess, a lack of fitness.
Yeah.
Not allow me to seal the deal on something, right? It's never been a huge issue for me. I'm sure it would be more enjoyable, the hunts, or it wouldn't suck as bad carrying that heavy pack if I prepared myself a little bit better for it.
Sure.
Which 100% agree I should. But I've seen people miss out on opportunities at animals because of their lack of, I guess, comfort with their firearm.
Yeah,
and I applaud those people that
I've been there, man. I know you're saying you applaud those people. I do too. I have been in scenarios where I didn't have the confidence to take the shot because I don't do what you do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when it comes to fitness, man, I mean, this is always like a side topic. Everything is all about balance. Everything is all about balance. You don't want to be morbidly overweight and so out of shape that walking, mowing your lawn wears you out, right?
Yeah.
But we don't all have to be elk-shaped Dan Staton level either.
Yeah.
And
right.
That dude will motivate the hell out of you, but at the same time, that we all don't need to be there because it's not our thing. Like some people are just fitness, kind of like I was talking about. Like your passion is in shooting, and this long range shot placement, ballistics and rifles and gear, that kind of thing is you're passionate about that. Like Dan, he's super passionate about being an athlete and being in great shape.
Yep.
I'm kind of in between you guys. I'm not passionate about either one of those things. I'm just passionate about notching tags.
There you go, man.
And it works. It works,
and
man.
That's, you nailed it on the head. Balance, and I know I'm off balance. The pendulum has swung for me more to the geeking out on the weapon side of things.
Mm-hmm.
That buddy I hunt with, he's super into the fitness side of things, and I think we balance each other out. But I applaud those people for having the ethics to know that, hey, I don't feel comfortable making this shot. And
Sure.
That's something everybody's going to have to look themselves in the mirror and figure out. I'm not going to sit here and say what's ethical and what's not, because that's an individual decision.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, like we were talking earlier, I practice so much that I have full confidence in my weapons capabilities and my data and my capabilities as a shooter to put that where I want it at some distances that people are going to go, oh, that's unethical. Okay, well, my ability to hit that target at 800 yards, I have a better hit percentage than you do at 200 yards.
Yeah.
Not you, but like,
yeah.
you know,
no, you probably
with another person. And so
you probably do, man. I guarantee
but
you do.
It's those kinds of discussions that I hate it when people, you know, same with archery's bad about it too. And that's a problem sometimes with our hunting community is we rag on each other so much that we let the antis kind of walk all over us sometimes. Yeah. And we've had those discussions, but
it's a big
topic,
anyway, man.
Yeah.
I'm writing a whole book on that.
Good. It needs to be said, you know.
It does.
As long as it's legal and as long as you personally or morally, you know, okay with it, that's, you know, I got nothing to rag on people about, you know.
Yeah.
But that's being fairly new to the bear hunting side of things, I guess, is I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to your podcast. I listen to, you know, a lot of other ones on bear hunting and kind of did a lot of my own research.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out where to find them and been pretty successful. But last year I was able to, my buddy of mine, Christian, was able to sponsor me to go to the Western Hunting Summit that Ryan Lampers puts on every year in Montana.
Yeah.
And was able to go to that. Yeah. And man, that was such a blast. It was so much fun.
Is it?
It's so much fun. 100% worth it, you know, and no matter what your skill level is or no matter what your experience is, you're going to learn something. I mean, I got to spend days with Ryan Lampers, Brian Barney, Mark Livesey, you know, just all these dudes. Dan Staten was there.
Mm-hmm.
Like these dudes that are at the peak, at the pinnacle of, you know, their respective categories. And, you know, going back to Livesey, Mark Livesey has his Treeline Academy thing that I know you're a big fan of. And
you know what? I need to actually hit him up. We're supposed to record a show together, and I keep dropping the ball on the schedule. That and it's my bad. So I'll get him on. But yeah. Anyway, didn't mean to cut you off with that.
Yeah, no, he's you know, the e-scouting side of things, right?
Yep.
I mean, especially now with gas, everybody doesn't want to drive to certain locations, and a lot of the times, you know, if you go like you're saying right now, you're snowed in, you got nowhere to go. So how are you going to go scout?
Yeah.
For spring bear, right? How are you going to have all these things? And me running, or just this year in general in Idaho, having the crazy weather that we've had, there was snow. We got snow on us when we were out there hunting, you know, and the snow level plays a huge role in where these bears are going to be. And so you can't go put boots on the ground and scout that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So having the ability to use all the tools that Mark lays out in his program, as far as, you know, using the snow overlays and using all the different satellite imagery and everything that he goes through. I don't want to spoil the secrets, but it's 100% worth it. I think it's $100 for 2 years, and he's putting out all these modules that, like, you're going to spin that in a tank of gas driving, you know, up into the mountains to shed hunt and think you're going to scout for bears. Well,
dude, that gives me, like,
you know,
that doesn't even fill up my truck. Well,
right.
Yeah, big
especially
truck.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the thing. People are like, oh man, I don't want to spend that money, but holy cow, the money that you're going to save. And I go back to his thing, you know, when we started off this bear season, we had a plan that we wanted to go into a certain area. It was one of the reduced bear tag areas, so second tag area. For us, it was a long ways away, so none of us wanted to drive to go see how it was. And so I was kind of relied on to do all that e-scouting and check the snow lines and check all the satellite imagery and everything. And, you know, his philosophy is of not being so tied into one area, so committed to one area that you're just going to gung-ho go after it, you know. And that was our problem, is this is an area that none of us had been in before, so we had all these thoughts of how it was going to be. And then you get there and you're like, holy cow, this is a lot different than we thought. Plus, it was just, Trailhead was just packed with people. The area, there was a outfitter running dogs in there. So, you know, drove quite a ways to get there. With, we didn't know what the water situation was, so we packed in a bunch of water. So we were 90 pounds plus walking in. We went 3,100 feet of elevation gain in 5.5 miles, just switchbacks.
Jeez, man, 3,100 feet in 5 miles.
I was smoked.
Dude,
oh my gosh, Jim! I don't know if I've ever been that smoked. My buddy Chris,
pretty insane, man.
That's when I wish I was in shape, because the other dudes, Chris, a couple dudes went in there a few hours ahead of us. I had to work the night before, so we kind of got a late start. And Chris is just a freak, and so he's just, mountain goats it up that hillside, and he gets to the top, and I'm dragging ass, and I'm in the back just sucking wind. And I need to do a better job of nutrition too, and eating along the way. I don't usually stop and snack, which I hit the wall pretty easy, and not being in very good shape. So, and he peeks over the edge. He's at the top at, where everybody's camped, and I'm still down there, taking 3 steps at a time, and then just having to, my legs are just jello at this point.
Oh, man.
And so he peers over and he goes, "Hey, you want me to come down there and grab your rifle?" I'm like, "Oh, you mother," he knows, he knows that gets me. So that gave me the motivation, I guess, to get up the hill a little better. But we get there, and it is a beautiful area. It's big country, but because of the snow level and everything, it wasn't what we were expecting. The snow level wasn't there, but the grass hadn't got to the point where we were at, and we were way up on this hillside. And I think too many people try to get to the top of the mountain. Well, the bears are in the bottoms. So, you might be able to glass them, but you ain't getting to them.
Sure.
And I like to kind of be at a spot where I can, and with all the, the mapping systems and whichever, Onyx base maps, Gaia, all those ones, Google Earth, whichever one you use, you can do a distance, across the canyons and see where is it in that canyon that you could shoot across, just kind of see. And it was one of those that we got to that spot, and even if we saw something, it was so steep that we wouldn't have been able to get to the bears if we saw them. We wouldn't have been able to shoot them from where we were at and take our time over there, because it was a mile across these canyons to the other side. So you would have had to have been on the same hillside as the bear to get a shot at him, but it was going to take you 4 hours to get over there just to get an opportunity. And it was just unrealistic for the time frame that we had and the amount of tags that we had to fill. And so we made a decision. We weren't committed to that area so much to where we were like, nope, we're going to stick it out. We had multiple hunt areas, different options that we had. So we woke up the next morning, kind of analyzed things, and we're like, no, we're backing out. So we hiked back out that day, 5.5 miles and 3,100 feet. So in 2 days, we did 11 miles and dropped all that elevation. And so I'm smoked. We drove that night another 6 hours to get to our other spot, camped there for the night, and then woke up the next morning, glassed the hillsides that we were at real quick, and then hiked in. That was a 6-mile hike in with same thing, 87, 90 pounds. And I'm smoked at this point, Jim. This is way more walking than I thought was going down during this bear hunt, And I like to let my eyes do the walking.
Let's take a quick break to give our show sponsors some well-deserved love. Let's start with Scree Extreme Mountain Gear. High-performance hunting attire and gear. Scientifically tested camo patterns. Complete layering systems. And in my opinion, the finest merino wool products to keep you warm, dry, and comfortable. It's all backed by a great company. Some of my personal favorites in the Scree lineup are the hard scrabble pants for early to mid-season, and then as it gets colder, I switch to the Kodiak pants for late season. The Bridger glassing mitts are like game changers, and I love the Nebo rain gear. Scree offers great packages on the website as bundles, like the elk bundle, that will completely outfit you for your favorite hunt. Oh, and my favorite part? You won't need to refinance your house to get outfitted. Try the starter bundle for less than $500. It's an insane deal. With the VIP sizing guarantee, you can exchange something that doesn't fit for free. I just had to do this for something that I got my wife. It was a little big, so I just sent it back. They covered the shipping both ways and exchanged it for the right size. So go to screegear.com and at checkout, use promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. Phelps Game Calls, one thing that I love about companies that are born out of hunting is their story. Like Phelps Game Calls, the American success story that walks us through how something started small and grew into something big. Like Phelps, he started this company kind of as a hobby in his garage in 2009. Now, a little over a decade later, Phelps is one of the premier hunting call companies on the planet for good reason. They're the most realistic calls on the market, and that is saying something. Check out the AMP lineup. For predator calls like the 3-pack POR 123 or the Fawn in Distress, check those out. Turkey calls, get a diaphragm, a pot call, or a box call, and a complete line of waterfowl calls. Hit up the website, and at checkout, use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Phelps Game Calls, get them close. The Elk Collective. The best investment for hunting success is what's between your ears. Having elk hunting knowledge is what separates those who succeed every once in a while against those who notch tags every year. There's a very fine line there, and there's a perfect amount of time if you're listening to this now to get through the entire course before September. Improve your chances with a virtual course of over 140 videos that cover things like how to get elk tags throughout the West, scouting and e-scouting, beginner to advanced elk calling, gear, fitness, nutrition, shooting processes, hunting scenarios, strategies, and tons more. They've got some very big names on this platform that give you their personal expertise as you go through the course. It's the best way to make you the best elk hunter as you get into the woods. So go to theelkcollective.com and use promo code The Western Huntsman for $20 off. It's normally $89, so when you use my promo code, it's going to be the best $69 you've spent on elk hunting, and I guarantee you it's worth every penny. Check it out, guys. Hoffman Boots. Let me give you guys a piece of advice from a dude with many miles on his feet. Never skimp on quality hunting boots. Hoffman Boots is a 4th-generation, family-owned company based in North Idaho. I've been sporting a pair of Hoffmans for close to a decade. Particularly, I like the Hoffman Explorer in the 8-inch. In my most humble opinion, again, Hoffman offers the most comfortable hunting boot that does the least amount of damage to my feet after several miles on the mountain. Very little break-in period on these boots, by the way. I took them right out of the box and went on a crazy elk hunt, not even a blister. For hunting, they have the Explorers and the Summit boot offered in insulated and non-insulated. And ladies, check out the new women's Hoffman Explorer 400. They also carry lineman boots, winter pack boots, logging boots, and hiking boots. Get totally outfitted at hoffmanboots.com, and at checkout, as you know it's coming, use promo code, all caps lock, Huntsman10 for 10% off. Last but not least, Tacticam. If you're interested in self-filming your hunts, whether for memories or making hunting content, check out the Tacticam products like the Spotter LR, Tacticam 5.0, and the Film Through Scope system, all of which are available at thewesternhuntsman.com, which helps support our fight against the anti-hunting movement. But my favorite is the Tacticam Reveal cell cams. I use these cell cams all over my property, and I'm like obsessed with monitoring the wildlife in real time with these cameras. They not only text me instantly when a buck or a bear is cruising through, my reveals make for excellent security systems. I know when the FedEx dude is delivering packages way down at the bottom of our driveway. And I also know if some knucklehead shows up to try to steal them. I know when someone's trespassing or if I have the kind of wildlife roaming around that I don't want, like a coyote. And I quickly react with my cat-like reflexes. Great for trappers, great for hunters, security, anything, guys. Check it out at tacticam.com because I don't have the reveals on my website right now. Let them know I sent you. Tacticam.com. Let's get back to the show. Here we go. That's the one beautiful thing about North Idaho. I mean, you can go into areas where you're going to get a 3,100 foot elevation gain, or 5-6 miles up, or whatever. But I mean, there's just not a lot of that. Like I live at 2,200 feet elevation, and my bear spots are at like 4,000 feet elevation. That's the elevation, and you got to drive to it. You know what I
mean? Yeah. And there's areas that you can get to here, but this was an area that we knew we'd all been in before. It was an area my buddy killed his bear in last year. So we knew the area. We knew it held bears. So we went in there. I elected to well, myself and a guy, Tanner, that was with us, we elected to be the guys to go get the water. And we had all agreed at the start of this hunt that it was, if you see it, you shoot it, or you can pass on it if you so choose.
Sure.
So I was like, oh man, I'm not going to be the one glassing. I'm not going to see a thing. We were at the same hillside my buddy saw his bear last year, so knew it was a possibility. So as we're down, we collected like 21 liters of water, just something stupid amount of water. And we're carrying it back up to the hill. And Tanner goes, why's Chris running? Hey, wait, hey, Chris is running. Why is he running? And I look up and he's running to my tent and grabbing my spotter. I was like, oh crap, he must have saw something. He's grabbing the spotter. So we get back up there to camp, and sure enough, he's got a bear spotted at, I don't know, it was something like 1,300 yards or something across this canyon. It was getting on the dark end of things, and probably 15 minutes of shooting light left.
Mm-hmm.
Sees this bear a long ways away. Big, looks like a big bear, good bear. Wind was howling, probably 15, 20 mile an hour winds at that point still. And he was thinking about making a play. Chris was the one that spotted him, so he was trying to get over, thinking of a way to get over close to that bear. And he's like, I think I can get to this hillside. And Jim, this would have been, we did the same run last year, so it was 900 feet down to the bottom, and he had to go up the other side to get to this saddle, so it wasn't a real easy jaunt. Yeah, it was a pretty steep.
I am not coming hunting with you guys.
Well, that's where Chris's, his fitness, he could do it.
Yeah.
I was sucking wind, a long ways behind him last year running after him when he shot his bear, but it would have been the same play. He just didn't have the amount of time this year as he did last year. And that bear was another ridge over, or this year's bear was another ridge over. So I was ranging, the hillside that he would have been able to get to would have cut about 600 yards off. So it still would have been about a 600 yard shot. Uh-huh. And he was, still wasn't comfortable with that kind of a distance, which I applaud him for. And so he elected to, hey, we're not going to go after him tonight. We'll wait him out. Well, I kind of lost a little bit of interest in it once we kind of made that decision, and he disappeared into a bottom. But one of the guys was still paying attention. I think it was Jordan that was paying attention. And he goes, hey, that bear's running right at us. And I look over, and by that time he had already kind of crested over a saddle. And, they described where it was at, brought it up in the binoculars and everything. So I was able to see where it was at. And he was running right at us, apparently. And so I was like, well, if he keeps on this line, he's going to pop out on this saddle right here. And it's like, just kind of messing around. Just started ranging that saddle. Can I ask you something
right there? Rodger, when you said if he keeps on that line, in your experience, when a bear is on the move like that, do they generally keep on the line, or do they, what makes them turn? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. And bears, we just watching this bear, he was all over the place, which was another reason Chris didn't take a run after him, because he wasn't on a line, wasn't just meandering in a direction. Just the 5 minutes that we saw him, he'd changed directions a bunch. But the way they were describing this bear running, it wasn't a meander. He was running. And the bear I shot last year was running, and he kept a pretty good line too. So I think there's a difference between the way they just kind of meander
versus when they're hauling ass.
Yeah. And so the way they were describing it, I didn't see him, but the way they're describing it seemed like, he's been chased by something. So I was like, all right, if he keeps on coming, he's going to hit this saddle right here. I got range finding binoculars by Steiner. And so I'm ranging. Those things are so cool, by the way. I'm going to go through batteries so quick on those because I range everything, just messing around. But
I know I use those quite a bit too.
So I'm ranging. I'm like, all right, if he comes out anywhere on this saddle, it's about 600 yards, 600 to 615. It's all right there. And I was like, all right, and I still at this point, I'm not the shooter, but I'm just kind of in my head, just doing all this stuff. I get out my wind meter and I take a wind reading and the vector where the wind's coming from. And I'm like, okay, plug it into my computer, get my data. I'm like, okay, this is about a minute and a half hold. And reach over and I dial the elevation on my turret for where the 600 yard mark would be, turned on my illuminated reticle and just sat there and waited. And just about lost interest in it again, picked up my rifle, was getting ready to go back to the 10 as it was, less than 5 minutes from shooting light. It was getting pretty dark. And then one of the guys was like, there he is on the saddle. And I looked back, and naked eye, you could see him at 600 yards sitting on the saddle. And I looked over at Chris, and I was like, you going to shoot him? And he goes, nah, man, fucking send it. And so I, right away, I mean, everything's already dialed on my scope. I grabbed my bipods, flop them down. You know, I already kind of figured which elevation of my bipod I needed. Click those up. I already had my rifle cover folded up and do a rear bag. Like, I was ready. And so I flopped that down, bipod down, got that bear in my scope, had everything dialed already, and sent one. From the time that they saw him on the hillside to the time I sent that first round was under 10 seconds, and it was quick.
Wow.
And he was seated kind of quartered away, kind of facing a little bit left, quartered away, but seated looking back behind him down into the draw he had just came from. And I put one right between his shoulder blades. And in all rights, it should have anchored him right where he stood or sat. And he started flopping around. And my philosophy on bears and pretty much anything is if it's still standing or still moving, give it another one.
Crank another one, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that too.
Especially with bears, man. They're so notorious for sucking up bullets and then people not being able to find them just because, they don't bleed.
Yeah. Bears,
you're not getting the blood trail. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that bear's flopping around like a fish out of water, flopping on the hillside, and I jack another one in and I send another one at him. Well, he's flopping around. It's kind of a guess where he's going to flop. I missed him on that one. And then he got back to his feet and took off running down that hillside. And so I zoomed out a little bit on my scope so I had a better field of view. And I led him right before he got into a thicket, led him quite a bit. I was probably 15 feet in front of him and let one go. And it hit him. What it looked like to us, it hit him hard. He felt, kind of tumbled down the hill from there, just disappeared in the brush. But it looked like it hit him hard and went down. So I thought he was down at that point. And
okay,
I'm a little hard. Yeah.
This is a good point to interject a question that we kind of touched on it before we hit record here.
Oh yeah.
Because like I'm on the edge of my seat. I love these kind of stories, and I think that there's a million different lessons to be learned out of these, and a million different perspectives are going to have a million different viewpoints, right? Yeah. And so the question is, what do you say when you talk about this 600? What did you say it was? 615 or?
I had it scoped dialed for 600. So the second one was probably 615ish as he was diagonal across the hillside. But.
What do you say to? Because you they're out there, and again, everybody has their own right to their own opinion. Like for me, I'm not taking a 600-yard shot for me, but that's not because I think nobody should. It's because I know my limitations. I know that I am not a proficient enough shooter to take a 600-yard shot, especially on a bear. What do you say to somebody who jumps on Facebook and they're like, "Oh, yeah, Rodger, shouldn't be taking that." You know how because they're never nice about it, right?
Oh yeah.
Respond to that guy or gal.
And that's everybody. Like we said before, everybody's got their own ethics that they need to follow. And like I talked about in the last year and some change, I've shot 800-900 rounds through this rifle. I didn't mention the 2,000 that I've put through my 6.5 Creedmoor since then too. I put a lot of rounds downrange.
Like, what kind of budget do you have, man? I can't afford that much.
So my wife might listen to this, so we're not going to talk about that on there.
Okay, I'll cut that part out.
But no, so I do a lot. So it's got a podcast, Chris Way. It's the Straight Dope podcast. Very technical podcast, a really good one to listen to. But he's also got a website.
What was it called? Straight Dope?
It's called Straight Dope.
Okay.
And then his website's Rifle Craft. Craft is with a K. And he has this target. Basically, we call it like the Craft Challenge or whatever. But you shoot it. It's 12 rounds, but you shoot one standing, one seated, one kneeling, and then one prone. And then you're going back and you do one seated or one standing, seated, kneeling, prone. And you do that 3 times. So for a total of 12 shots. and it basically shows you what grouping, and you mark each one of those shots. And so he does the analytics on it and basically what your hit percentage is at different distances and everything like that. And a lot goes into it, but doing a lot of those, I build and break positions a lot. So building that position to shoot that bear from I do that a lot. My wife hates it because I sit in the living room with dummy rounds, dry fire, building and breaking positions and dry firing it, and do a lot of practice on that kind of stuff. So it's, I've had those guys, the type that want to question my ethics on a shot like that. Well, running the ballistics and running the numbers, I still had over 2,100 feet a second velocity on that 200 grain bullet, and over, I think, 2,100 foot-pounds of energy. So that's more speed and more energy than let's say a 30-30 out of the muzzle.
Now, Rodger, don't talk smack about my 30-30.
I love the 30-30s, but so many people have been shooting deer with those. I mean, that thing's probably killed the most deer. Everybody wants to argue about
my lever action has killed more deer than the plague, and I love
it.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm getting at, is that thing is a very effective rifle and has been for a long time. And so, I put it in that perspective that's why I say that shot should have, in all rights, anchored that bear.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get to it later where I found that bullet, but it's, so I was shocked that bear didn't just drop in his tracks, because I had every confidence on where I hit that bear. I wasn't able, because of the darkness, and we didn't get a spotter on it. Couldn't see the trace, which is the layman's terms, the vapor trail behind the bullet. Couldn't see that because the sun was down so much. So, but I was able to see that bear got impacted, and it looked like it hit him hard. And I had confidence that I put the bullet where I wanted it to. And so that's what I try to say to people is, I practice enough to know that I can make that shot. My hit percentage on that shot is very high.
You nailed it, man. You referred to something, I don't know if you called it personal or individual ethics, but ethics are a thing that is very personal to some hunters, and other hunters that perceive or have what they determine their personal ethics are different. It's almost like they take it personal, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to stop doing. Like, I would never make a 600 round shot, or 600 yard shot on a bear, personally, for me. But that doesn't mean I'm mad at you for doing it, right? Because I know you put a hell of a lot more rounds down range. You're more familiar with your rifle. I focused on the bow so for like far too long, and I found the last couple of years that I really enjoy rifle hunting still. And so it's one of those things that I need to build my proficiency up. Maybe in 5 years or 2 years or 10 years, maybe I'll take a 600 yard shot. But for right now, that's a personal choice. And so that's, I think, the message that I'm trying to get to people is somebody's personal ethics and their confidence level and what they're shooting and how long is not beholden to your personal opinion. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, everybody's is different. I have buddies that I was in the military with that were actual legitimate, not drunken bar claimer to beer types, actual snipers in the Marines that could make that shot all day long and twice on Sunday. I can't. And so does that make sense?
And that's my buddy too. Yeah, that's my buddy Chris from California that I told you got me into this, kind of spent a lot of my money over the years, which I'm gonna have to give him shit for, because my budget's different now. But yeah, so he was a SWAT sniper down there, and he's the kind of guy that can make this shot too. But it's the guys that buy these, and I just use Gunworks because they're easy, because they say 1,000 yards out of the box. Well, just because the rifle is capable of it doesn't mean the shooter is.
Exactly.
And you could take a gun that's a quarter minute gun, quarter MOA gun, so shooting 1/4 inch groups at 100, and you could put it in the hands of a subpar shooter, and it's not going to be a 1/4-inch gun. Your load, your ammunition like it might be a 1/4-inch gun, but your load might not be a 1/4-inch, or so all these tolerances stack, so to speak. So when I would rather have somebody have save their money and have a 3/4 minute gun, factory gun, and spend the money on ammunition and train and do that stuff than, buy the $10,000 rifle, but not be able to afford to shoot.
That is such a critical point, Rodger. Like that's I think the most critical point out of this podcast in terms of how hunters treat each other with their varying opinions and personal ethics, because we all have different value sets that pertain to our ability and our confidence level. Like that we were talking about, that 30-30 lever action rifle I've got. That sucker, you put anything within about 160 yards of me, that sucker, and I have that rifle, it's an open-sighted, there's no optics on it, it's got this old sling on it, it's got dings and dents, but I know exactly where that bullet is going to go, and I don't know shit about ballistics, but I shoot it. I have shot it so much.
Yep, you're intimately familiar with that rifle.
Intimately familiar with it, and I know if I've got something within 160 yards, I say 160 because that's about the longest I'll take on that one. It's dead. It's dead. I know that. Put me in that same rifle at 220 yards, I'm not going to be as confident. I'm not going to take the shot. So anyway,
that's good.
We derailed it again. Sorry about that, but I think that was a super important point. And you did a good job explaining that. And so you hit him twice, and he kind of ran down into the bottom. It's getting dark. That's kind of where we left off.
Yeah, and at that point, I hate celebrating without putting hands on something. I've seen it all too often. I've had it done before. I've shot a buck, let it lay overnight thinking it was dead, shot a buck, went to go give it some hours, thought I was going to walk up on it dead, and it got up and ran away.
Mm-hmm.
Found it the next morning, didn't give him enough time, but I don't like celebrating too early until I put hands on something. And so that night was a little rough, but I'd been just smoked from the hiking with all that pack on that I slept pretty good. But we got up the next morning and went down after it and kind of made a plan as to where we were going to, set up. I went to the hillside that he was on to get where his tracks were, and everybody else kind of fanned out down through the hillside. Two of the guys had their handguns. One guy had a handgun and his rifle just in case we needed it. And then I had my rifle. And I should preface this, I brought 9 cartridges up there on the hillside. I usually bring a little bit more than that, but this time I was like, I'll probably do it.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little bit later. But so I'm on the hillside, and I'm not finding blood where I should have been finding blood, which, like I said, with a bear, not a huge deal, just because they're, they got the fat layer, their fur, their hide,
furry. They're super furry.
They soak it up. And because of where I hit him, I knew it wasn't going to be a super bloody shot right in between the shoulder blades and his back. It's not like it's down low. So I wasn't expecting a whole lot of blood. When I was trailing him, tracking him, and then where I hit him the second time, then I started seeing a lot of blood. So I was like, great sign. Well, I'm also finding in his tracks were wolf tracks. One set of wolf tracks in this bear's tracks, and I was like, no way. This thing was either...
There's like this lone wolf kind of following him?
Yeah.
And you never saw him?
In his tracks. No, never saw the wolf, which is, thinking about it now, we thought, maybe that bear was getting chased out of that area by another bear, a bigger bear. After seeing those wolf tracks, I'm like, holy cow, there was a wolf that was probably chasing this bear, that bear got to that saddle when I shot him, got to that saddle and was looking back down into the draw at the wolf, and then I shot him, and then it got dark, so we didn't see the wolf pop out onto the saddle and follow that bear down the hill. But so we're tracking him, and it gets down into a creek bottom, and I'm expecting to see him piled up in any one of these little dark holes in this creek bottom. And we're tracking him. Still wolf tracks down in there too. Wolf following down in there, and then Buddy Jordan yells out what everybody wants to hear. I got him over here. He's he's down,
nice.
and everything. So I go running over there. We all go over there. He's like, he's down right there. Look, you could see him down over here. Sorry, hold on. And so I go over there and I look. Sure enough, you could see him in there. Bringing my rifle standing. Like, yeah, that's him. Kneel down. I'm like, I just kind of knelt down through my glass looking at him. And it's like, man, somebody throw a rock in there just to make sure. And I went, hey, bear. And when I said, hey, bear, he kind of perked up and went, oh, shit. Pow.
No kidding.
Again. Yeah, he was still alive. Shot him at, I don't know, we're probably 20 yards at this point from this bear, and he's in this thick brush.
So he didn't hear your buddy saying, hey, I got him over here?
No, we were sitting there talking. We weren't being quiet,
Okay, so he was close to death anyway. He was close.
Yeah, most likely. But he had enough to move, and so I hit him again, and then he did the death moan, roared out, and you could hear him flopping around in the creek bottom, but I couldn't see him. So I maneuvered around to the creek downhill side of him to get a better shot at him. Again, like I said, if they're still moving, I'm going to give them another. So I get down in there, and my buddy Chris goes with me. So at that point, that's 4 shots, 3 hits on that bear.
So
and
which one do you think you didn't hit? Was it the second one when he was running?
I know it was the second one. I saw it miss.
Oh, gotcha. I must have missed that part.
Yeah,
it's crazy how much lead these suckers can suck up.
Man. Yeah, and like I said, all right, this bear would have died after that third shot, but we're in such close proximity. I'm not giving him a chance to charge. I'm not giving, I want to kill him as quickly as I can. And so he's still, at this point, he's not moving. I get to a spot where I could see through the thick kind of willow patches, and he's facing me. Perched on a stump, bipod out, sitting there standing, but perched on the stump with my bipod. He's looking at me. He's not moving. Well, I zoom in with my scope because I was at 4 power, but I zoom in and I could see his eyes. His eyes are open, looking at me. And then he looks over without moving his head. He's looking over at my buddies, looking over at me, looking over at my buddies with his eyes, and I'm watching this. And I was like, crap. When I'm looking at him, all I could see his head and then his left shoulder. And I can't, if I shoot his left shoulder, it's just going to be a shoulder shot. It's not going to get into the cavity just because of how straight on it is. Sure. I'm not going to try to skip one off of his forehead. I just didn't have a good shot. And I didn't want to maneuver out of that creek bottom at a good spot, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to see him anywhere else. So it was kind of a waiting game at that point. I was sitting there. It felt like forever, but I think it was only a couple minutes, and I'm sitting there waiting for him, and I told my guys, I was like, hey, we're just going to wait him out. If he moves, I'll give him another one. If not, we see him, he's right here. Well, in my infinite wisdom, I decided I was going to try to take a picture or record video through my rifle scope with my phone. If you've ever tried to do that before, it's a pain in the ass because you got to get the right eye relief. You got to get it. And so I'm kind of messing with that, not paying attention. And my buddy goes, he's up. And I drop my phone, look in my scope again. And sure enough, he'd gotten to his front feet, and he was on his front feet. And I put one into his chest, flopped him back over into the creek bottom, and he was flopping around in there, and then gave him another one, and then I think one more. So for a total of four shots down there in the creek bottom. That the second volley we were at like 15 yards. I think we were a little bit closer than the first shots, but 10-15 yards. But it was bad breath distance in there with a wounded bear that. It's not how I like to have it done, but yeah, like I said, if he's still moving, I'm giving it to him. And luckily, I didn't lose a lot of meat because I was hammering the same shoulder.
Oh,
and chest cavity. So I didn't.
Ask.
I lost one front shoulder, but everything else was chest cavity shots. They were every shot that I hit him was in front of the ribs. They were all, upper torso shots. So,
okay. So not terrible.
Yeah, and so we walk up to this bear, and he's a big bear. He's a real good size. Squared him out at 6.5, a little over 6.5 feet, and just kind of a preliminary measurement on his skull, 18.5 to 19. I got it sitting in a pot right now. I got to boil it. Probably going to do that tomorrow. But he's, I guess field dressing him and everything, and I was able to find where I hit him the first shot, right between the shoulder blades as I was taking his backstrap off.
Mm-hmm.
Find perfectly mushroom bullet sitting, their backbone, that ridge separating the left from the right, mm-hmm. and then it L's down where their ribs come in. That bullet was sitting perfectly lodged in that L in the middle of his shoulder blades, and perfectly mushroomed and everything right there. And it damaged a bunch of his vertebrae in there. They were kind of cracked up and everything, but he was still kicking. And then the second shot hit him in the neck, probably just right in front of the shoulders, mm-hmm. right in the neck, and it hit, and it's still same that ridge. It actually fractured a bunch of those vertebrae and just mush, just a big ass hole right through his neck. And he was still kicking at that one. And
that's crazy. So the first two shots, like no vitals were hit. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, they were. I mean, backbone shots. That one didn't penetrate. The first one didn't penetrate his backbone into the chest cavity, and then the second one, in the neck, hit the vertebrae and everything, but didn't. And that's what made it look like when I hit him in the neck, he crumpled. Right, it probably knocked him out.
Sure. Just
the energy at that point still knocked him out, but it wasn't something that was. I mean, it was a mortal injury, but if I wouldn't have put more into him, he would have. Yeah, it would have. We would have been chasing him down the mountain for a while.
So, but at that point, you've got him in the bottom of this drainage. You tracked him, you finish him off, kind of thing. Like, how far back to the truck is it at that point?
It's probably 6.5, 7 miles.
Oh, okay.
The way we came out.
Terrible.
It's not terrible. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But we were down at the bottom, so we had to go up about 900 feet to get to the camp, and then it was pretty much all downhill from there. But
he's such a good bear, man. I'm on your Instagram right now.
Dude, I have some pictures that I don't think that I posted them yet, but I guess the uphill side. I guess then the east side of that drainage where he was at, that wolf tracks came all the way down into where he was at. So I think that wolf had bayed him like a dog, bayed him into that willow patch all night.
Wow.
Because those wolf tracks were all over in that creek bottom where that bear died. And so I think that wolf bayed him in that willow patch. It was a thick willow patch. And so that kind of had us on edge, and I sat on his carcass for a day just to make sure. Hopefully, a wolf popped out, but
you were trying to get the wolf. I'm caught up in your some of the Instagram photos here. I mean, he's just a great bear. I mean, gosh.
Yeah, we thought he was black. Just seeing him from 1,300 yards, we thought he was black.
Light.
If it's the same bear we saw at 1,300, we don't know, but it came from the same direction, so we're assuming it was. But yeah, just a dark chocolate. I was kind of hoping it was a jet black. I've never killed a jet black. A bunch of cinnamon red colored ones, but
God,
he's cool.
Look at
cool
the teeth
color
on that sucker, man. Yeah, you wouldn't want him getting a hold of you.
Yeah, they're so unpredictable too. I'm not going to take the chance.
And
so cut them up, pack them out, and then. We ended up all kind of going into this creek bottom where we hung them in a tree and just drawing the shade for a couple days because we still had 3 or 4 days in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cut up some pieces and cooked them over the fire, which was really cool. Doing some willow sticks as kind of like a fire grate, and laid some pieces out, seasoned them, and cooked them over the fire. Yeah.
Oh, cool,
it was really good. That was the first time I've had bear that way.
You liked it. And
yeah, it was good.
That always leads to the question, because there's a lot of people that listen to this that have never had bear, and man. Talk just briefly what your takeaway, or not takeaway, but what's your take with when it comes to bear meat? How does it compare to other wild game? Is there a favorite way that you prepare it?
I've only ever had it in sausage and hamburger. That was the first time I've had it in like raw form, I guess, steak, or not in a hamburger or sausage. But it's my preferred like wild game hamburger over deer. Even my wife, she'd take that over my deer or even my elk hamburger and whatnot. So it gets eaten first in my household.
Do you do any sausage after the fact?
I don't. I still have some left over from last year. I'm not a big breakfast sausage guy, and so it's kind of one of those. I mostly get them into hamburger, 1 pound little hamburger bricks. But
what would you say, Rodger, to somebody listening to this that wants to? Because when you tell this story, what I think about is. Like for me, I know that there's people up here in northern Idaho that do it, because we have a lot of bears, especially like up in Unit 1. Due to the grizzly population, you can't set baits, but it's still pretty thick up there. It does open up a little bit more, however. That said, up in Unit 1, where you get some more kind of open country where spot and stock is a little bit more viable. And I know I'll say this, and somebody's going to be like, well, I spot and stock in unit, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all these different units. Yeah. But for the most part, the spot and stock opportunity is fairly limited just due to the density of the woods up here. So let's just all agree, without sending me any hate mail, that, generally speaking, it's very difficult to do a spot and stock hunt, like this, consistently, and make her happen. So that was a long way of me getting to somebody's listening to this and they want to do like a spot and stock bear hunt. What would you say is like a key takeaway in terms of a lesson that you got out of this season that you think other people would benefit from knowing?
Man, it just kind of goes back to the time behind the rifle. And it's not, I know ammo is expensive and it's hard to find, and not everybody's got the ability to hand load. But there's...
What do you mean it's expensive? I have a hard time believing that in Joe Biden's America.
I know, right?
Whoa. Who said that?
Right. So there's things you can do. And Jim, I'd recommend this too for your daughter, is there's companies out there that make dry fire training systems. Mm-hmm. So if you Google DFATs, dry fire...
Hold on, I'm pulling it.
Yeah.
DFAT?
Yeah.
I'm handwriting it because I don't want to pull up my other laptop. It messes with my.
So it's
Is it DFAT?
Yeah. It's a dry fire training system that is. So most scopes, the parallax or the focus knob will go down to, depending on the scope, 50, 25 yards. Other than that, it's blurry if you're in any closer. Well, DST Precision, and there's another company that makes these scope caps. It's a lens that goes over your your objective lens, that allows you to focus your parallax down to feet, like 10, 12 feet. So you're able to, and then they have super high resolution images, like targets that you can use to dry fire. They have ones that are hunting specific, so they're life size as it would be, looking through your scope. So if you look at these pages, normally the targets are tiny, but you're looking through a magnified optic, so they show up as real size, as life size. And they say on there, like, at what yardage this would be the size of that animal or whatever. So it's a super cool system, and they're not expensive. You buy one, a whole package is probably going to run you $150, which shooting a 300 short mag, that's a box and a half of ammo. You know, that
Yeah.
stuff's $90 a box. So, you know, people are going to look at that and go, man, that's expensive. Well, you're getting thousands of trigger pulls, building and breaking positions on, you know, life-size hunting targets and everything like that. And you can use your, you know, whatever. You do need some artificial lighting because when you're zoomed in that far, your scope gets real dark. So some artificial lighting on these pages, but it's a super neat system that is, it's easy to do in your home, dry firing. Obviously, make sure your firearm safety is, everything's unloaded, right? And,
Oh yeah.
But you can get these trigger pulls, and you could see your wobble zone. You know, see in different shooting positions where you're going to be the most stable and what your zone, you know, your wobble zone is. And so those are things that people can do that don't have the ability to go out and put rounds down range. And nothing beats putting rounds down range. It's just, that's the ultimate, but this is a very close. I do a ton of dry fire, whether it's weapon manipulations or just actually pulling the trigger on these targets. But it's a huge thing. So that's my biggest takeaway is Chris. If Chris was able to do a little bit more of I mean, he's big into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that takes up a ton of his time. He competes and all that stuff. He's big into that side of things and the fitness. So that's his passion. You know, mine is firearms. So we have a little bit different skill sets. But, you know, if he did a little bit more of this, he probably would have been the one killing that bear, not me. He spotted it. He did all the hard stuff. I just shot it. Yeah. You know, and that's why I say I don't want to tote myself as a good hunter. I'm a really good shooter that puts myself in situations to be where the animals are.
Okay.
Right? Which, you know, some guys, Ryan Lampert, some other guys are like, no, I don't take over a 400-yard shot. Those guys are super good hunters because they kill every year getting into those distances. You know, I've had a pretty good luck the last 4 years harvesting animals and filling tags, but it's more because of my shooting ability and not necessarily my hunting ability. I guess one goes with the other, but it does.
But there's no. You're exactly right. Like there is no right or wrong way when it comes to that kind of stuff because you're proficient in ways that make you lethal, and you're following your passion, and that's the point of hunting. The point of hunting is to fulfill this passionate side, this ancient thing that we as humans and that we need to fulfill. I get it. It's not the total point. We want to fill our freezers. We want to do all that kind of stuff. Get the memories and yes, and yes. But we are also out there to follow a passion, and your passion happens to be on that side. And I just checked out that DFAT system. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's another company. It's called IDTS, Ida, Dave, Tom, Sam. IDTS Dry Fire Training System, and they have a similar system. It's kind of more of a big poster, kind of a roll down poster that's got, you know, they have a North American Hunter starter kit that they have different levels, and it looks like it's the same image, but just different levels. And it's that's a pretty cool one because you can do it from prone, seated, kneeling, standing, and you're shooting at targets or you're dry firing on targets that are at those levels, which is pretty cool. But they have a beautiful hillside just full of animals, and it tells you what yardage they are. So you can work on using your EDC reticle or dialing your turrets and doing all those things that, you know, you need to do. And it's not stupid long ones, right? I think this one is 500 yards. The size of these targets, so that's not like you're gonna be looking at something at 1,000 yards away, but it's giving you the ability to see an animal through your scope, get a trigger pull, and not just because if you're, and I do it a lot, if you're just laying on the ground in your living room, you know, building positions and pulling the trigger, you can't see. It might look like you're not wobbling, but you can't see unless you got something else on the other end you can focus at.
Yeah. For sure.
And so it's people like, oh, I dry fire all the time. Well, do you dry fire at something that you can see your wobble zone? And most people don't because this system isn't very well known, but it's invaluable. And that's $155 for the kit, and it gives you everything that you're going to need.
Yeah,
and
that's a
like I said, that's a couple.
Like,
that's a couple boxes of ammo, man. Yeah, it's a great system.
I mean, this 300 Win Mag I've got. I mean, man, it was like $60 for the box of rounds that I just saw, and that was for like the cheap shit.
Yeah, right. The Winchester white box or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And
it's especially for new hunters like your daughter. That's going to be huge for her to be able to build positions and aim at something that you're telling her, okay, aim at the deer. He's at 200 yards or whatever, and you're able to see her, and she's able to get that sight picture and get that muscle memory of working the bolt and doing all that stuff, which is kids are going to be hesitant when they go out and shoot, especially with their parents. Everybody thinks guns are bad, and so even growing up as a kid, I was afraid to shoot around my dad because I was afraid to get yelled at. I was afraid to do something stupid, afraid, because they always say, there's no second chances. You mess up with a firearm and it could be somebody dead. Yeah. Well, so people get on edge, right? And so they have a hard time getting all these other fundamentals down because they're worried about the loud blast and the recoil and everything else. Well, so they're not building positions good. They're not doing the follow through. They're not working the bolt. They're not doing all these other fundamentals. That these dry fire training systems are just great. And then you go out and you have them shoot, and then I think it probably limits some of the anxiety that especially new shooters have.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. System. That's great. I'll get it because I'll even use it. I mean, I've been shooting for almost, what am I, 41? I mean, a long time. Yeah. And so, but I don't ever want to be. I'll never limit myself. I'll use it. I'll practice with it for sure.
No, I use it all the time in my garage. It's a great training tool, really. I'll be out there reloading as my brass is tumbling or something. I'll put myself on a timer and see how fast I can get down into a position and touch off a dry fire. And you could see too when you pull the trigger, if you're hammering that trigger and you're not getting a good trigger press, you're going to see that wobble zone. You're going to see it move. And so a lot of times when people are shooting, they're like, oh no, that was a great trigger press. Well, as Joel Turner says, your mind will not let your body experience an explosion by surprise.
Yeah.
And so these people that are like, man, no, this gun shoots like crap. It's 2-inch group. People are flinching. And I know you're preparing yourself. You don't have a good, whether it's a natural point of aim, your position's not built right, and you're the weakest link in this whole system, not the rifle, not the ammo. And so I think people put more emphasis on trying to get a rifle that's a quarter-minute rifle, buying all these expensive stuff where you're the weak link in this whole thing. You're the one that's going to make this an inaccurate system. And so I think people need to focus a little bit more on their side of things, their training.
Well,
we got sidetracked again, dude.
No, that's okay, man. Because it's going down the right direction for a conversation where people are going to get stuff out of it, and that's a great program. As you were talking, I was looking on my phone, and I'm super interested in that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you tagged out. You got a great bear. You got a bunch of meat out of it. You got a great memory, a great story. This is what we do. This is what we talk about on this show, and it's just congratulations. I know I said it over a text message or whatever, but now it's in person. Congratulations on a great bear.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I feel bad. I keep telling Chris this. This feels like this is his bear. Everybody's bear, right? That was on that trip with us. Everybody helped me pack it out. Everybody helped me cut it up. Everybody. Mm-hmm. My tag was the one that got notched, but this was everybody's bear. Everybody had a hand in it, and it was definitely a group effort on this one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you make that point because that's how it should be when you're hunting with a team or a buddy or whatever. That there is a sense of ownership for the people that didn't actually pull the trigger. Because everybody's there to help, and that's what makes a good hunting partner or a great hunting team is everybody's committed to this one goal, it doesn't matter who's actually putting the tag on it. They're just as enthusiastic. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what it sounds like in your situation. And again, you don't ever want to. You ever go out with that person that makes you feel like shit or feel guilty for pulling the trigger? Then you're hunting with the wrong person. I mean, honestly, you are. Unless you spot, let's say a big 200-inch buck walks out 50 yards from you, and all of a sudden you nudge your buddy, check this buck out, and all of a sudden he cracks off a shot before you have a chance. Okay, I get that.
Yeah, that's a dick move. Yeah.
Don't be a dick. that would be a dick move.
Yeah. Chris he's been so great with everything, and he was as happy as it would have been if he shot it, but I just feel like I didn't hunt it. I didn't.
You're just
like
not
I said,
a dick,
I didn't spot it. I don't know. It feels weird to me. I guess just almost feels like a guided hunt. I've never been on a guided hunt, but I would imagine this is kind of what it feels like if somebody does the spotting for you, and but it just.
Well, I think it was just circumstantial. I mean, you were fetching water, right? I mean,
right?
It's just again, as long as your buddies understand, they're probably not making you feel like shit about it.
No, not at all. They never said a ill word about it at all. Never like, that should have been my, nothing, man. Just they've all been great. Chris spotted it initially. Yeah, I shot it, but then Jordan found it down on the bottoms, and then Tanner, the other buddy that was with us, he helped me pack it all the way out to the truck when he had to leave. But it was definitely a group effort, man. It was a lot of fun hunting with these dudes.
For sure, and it's been fun, like being what do you call that on Instagram? Like your friend on Instagram or follower? I'm your follower. I follow you on Instagram, and so it was fun watching you put that story together. Because it just shows your level of commitment and your passion behind this bear. And a lot of people, you see a picture, hey, I got a bear, or the famous, I got it done today, whatever. It doesn't have to be just a bear, but there's something, there's this added side to it when you kind of tell the story through like multiple days and multiple posts. It tells people that watch that this was not some fluke thing that you were accidentally doing. You went out with a purpose, and you're super passionate about it, and you're happy with the results, and all this hard work kind of came to fruition, and you're excited to tell the story, and that's what I love about it, and that's what hunting is. That's what hunting should be.
And I haven't even got into the rodeo that was the pack out and everything. That was
straight
mess.
like what so correct me if I'm wrong. In my mind, because I didn't read all the posts, I'm envisioning you had this bear down in that willow patch down in the bottom of the drainage there. I'm thinking it was what, a 500 to 1,000 elevation gain back up to get to camp, and then back down, and I don't know. Like, describe it.
So that day, it wasn't that bad. I mean, we had all day. We were kind of, we knew that was going to take up all of our time until the evening hunt and everything. And so that wasn't bad, but it was the day following that Tanner had to go out. He had to leave the trip early to go back to work. And so that's when, I'm looking at the weather, and we were getting spotty weather all the time, and we were up at pretty high elevations. So, looking at it, we're like, man, we're probably going to get thunderstorms, snow that day. So, like, I got to get this bear into a cooler. I don't want it to get wet and spoil. It was cold, but I didn't want it to get wet.
Yeah.
And so Tanner was going out already. He grabbed some of the meat. I loaded up the bear, and then we hiked out the 6 miles back to the truck that day. Well, Chris and Jordan went off into another area. We're seeing bears. And they were like, hey, man, if you want to stay at the truck tonight, cool. Go ahead and stay at the truck. We'll hunt around. If we get something, we'll let you know. I was like, man, if they get something, I'm not there to help them. It's kind of a dick move. So dropped off everything at the truck. So we had planned to render down some bear fat and cook some of this bear in the oil, but we ran out of fuel. Chris brought a canister up that was, ended up going empty on like the third day, and so we're like, crap, we don't know if we have enough fuel. So when I was coming back in, they're like, bring some extra fuel and bring some Coors Light. So I get back to the truck. So back to the nine rounds. So I only had 9 cartridges. Well, after that melee with the bear, I only had 2 left. I'm like, I'm gonna run into wolves. So I brought more cartridges in. I bought 6 Coors Lights and then a canister of fuel in case they got something. And so I decided to hike back in. So I'm coming in. This would have been like mile 12 when I get back. As soon as I'm getting back to the camp, the wind is just getting in. It's starting to rain, and I look up on the hillside where our camp is, and I could see my tent blowing in the wind.
Oh no!
Like, crap.
Like blowing across a mountain, or was it still kind of staked
well,
down?
just about. It was staked down, but it was not staked like it should have been.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, crap,
I'm guilty of that.
Blowing all over. And so I was supposed to drop the beers off into the creek and let them stay cooler in the spring. I just ran up to the top, and as I'm getting up there, I have a Helinox chair that I have staked down. Well, it was in my vestibule. Well, that vestibule came off, and so my Helinox chair was almost down the mountainside. So I had to run and go grab that. And then my tent's blowing all over. Rain's getting inside on my down sleeping bag and everything, all my gear that's in the inside, because it was just nasty wind. So I'm grabbing corners, trying to keep everything down and trying to jimmy rig. Well, 3 of the 4 corners of my tent, the webbing straps broke.
Oh, no.
And so it was holding down by the vestibule stakes and then one corner. And so I'm trying to wrangle this rodeo and trying to do all this and just getting dumped on, just getting rained on bad. And I get it kind of jimmy rigged down. Well, with that area where we're at, I needed to be able to tighten down, and I can do different knots, tensioning knots and stuff, and I had those done as best I could, but they weren't holding like I wanted, and I couldn't just grab the stakes and stretch them out further and restake them down because of how rocky everything was. I actually had rocks stacked on top of the stakes to keep them in, which, thinking about it now, that's probably what caused those 3 straps to break. Is I bet you a rock had blown over onto that webbing strap, and as everything was just rocking and rolling, it just cut it.
Yep.
You know,
I'll bet you're exactly right.
That's what I'm thinking now. I was kind of pissed at the tent maker at the time, but I was like, thinking about it later, I'm thinking, it's probably my fault. Yeah. But I couldn't. This thing was just it was just a limp noodle, and it was blowing in the wind. And I was like, man, we're gonna get more snow and rain tonight. And I was like, text the guys on the inReach, and I was like, hey, dude, my tent's not gonna make it overnight. I'm just gonna get soaked. I'm gonna pack up and head back to the truck. Well, I've already done 12 miles that day. The first 6 were, 90 pounds, and then coming back in was pretty light with 6 Coors Lights. But it was. I started packing all my stuff up and everything, and I had to go back. I had another tent in the truck, but I was so I packed everything up, and those dudes hauled ass back to the camp too, and their tents were doing pretty good, but everybody was wet, taking a beating, and they're like, all right, we'll walk out with you. So we all packed up, chugged the beer. So we only packed back out 3 beers.
3 beers, yeah.
We took out all the cans though. Everybody, if you pack it in, pack it out.
Ah, man. Yeah, that's a man over that. We see eye to eye on this, man. Nothing pisses me off faster.
Dude, it's heavier packing them in than it is packing them out. Why not pack them out?
Pack them out. Freaking nobody wants to see your beer cans or sardine cans on the mountain.
No joke, dude. Yeah. So we ended up loading everything up. So I did 18 miles that day. Yeah. Coming back out, I was at like 85 pounds, and it just I never would have thought, man, right, that I was going to do that. If you would have asked me before season you were going to do 18 miles in one day, 12 of which were with pretty heavy pack on, and I told you you're crazy because I'm not in shape, and I probably wouldn't have done that. But it's just
isn't it amazing? Like that, because I'm no mathematician, but I was adding it up, and so 18 miles in one day. Does it surprise you sometimes, Rodger, like how far you can push your body beyond the limitations of what you thought was capable?
And that's another good takeaway from this trip is you're stronger between the ears than you think, and if you're strong enough between the ears, you could push your body to do stuff that you wouldn't have thought. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you would have asked me that before, so I did 11 miles before we got to that point. 6 going in. The next day coming in and out, probably, I don't know, shit, I'm bad at math, so that's what, probably 18 miles then. So probably 35, 36 miles this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I never would have thought in, I don't know, 4 days, 5 days.
4 days, yeah. 5 days.
5 days, I think. So I never would have thought I would have done that. I'm
crazy.
That's not how I hunt. That's not how, I mean, during elk season, right? You're doing, but it's light. I'm usually running a gun with a IA pack and day mode, and it's nothing heavy.
Yeah.
The majority of these miles were with 85 to 90 pounds on, which I was, I think the only time coming back in with the Coors Light was the lightest I was. Everything else was with a full pack. So I never would have thought that, but I guess in my head decided that it's going to suck, but I can do it,
I like your thinking with the Coors Light, man. I feel like between your story and whatever mild influence I might have, maybe between the two of us we can get a Coors Light sponsorship.
Dude, and that's the thing, right? Like, I packed in Coors Light. I also packed in 16. I packed in 16 ounces of whiskey. Like, dude, I'm not sitting there counting my ounces. I'm not shaving weight off of my rifle, right? I'm bringing in whiskey.
Is easier to pack, man, than Coors Light. But okay,
but we had already drank
sense.
most of it. But that was, it's like, hey, man, I'm out there to have a good time. I'm out there to be comfortable. I pack in a Helinox chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a Z seat. I could do all that lightweight, cut my toothbrush handle off stuff, but I want it to be comfortable. Glassing off of a Helinox chair or a Big Agnes chair, any of those chairs, those lightweight chairs, those are money, man.
They're solid, man. I'll take those on day hunts too. I don't.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I always have that chair with me now. It's but I shave weight in other places. I use the Black Obus, the down jacket and their pants.
Mm-hmm.
I shaving out weight with my sleep system, Thermarest X-Therm Max Pad. It's like 17 ounces, super high R value. Well, I got a 20 degree Enlightened Equipment quilt that's 22 ounces. It's super lightweight stuff, but it's still warm. It's really nice. Probably doesn't do the best in the rain like it did, but
yeah, well,
tent holds up, but yeah.
Either way, man, I know I'm keeping you late here, but it's just it's a fascinating hunt just because of the story and between the whiskey and the Coors Light and the chairs. I'm glad we're on the same page with our comfort requirements in the backcountry, because I think it's important and it enhances the experience overall. But when you shake all that out of the shaker, what's left in the bottle is you did a hell of a job on a hell of a bear hunt on a hell of a bear, and I'm super happy to hear it. And you're one of those dudes that, like, when you're showing something that you notched a tag on, I get super proud, because I feel like you're one of those dudes that I can just count on, knowing you deserved it. You put the work in. This was not some fluke thing. I know you busted your ass to make this happen. And you've put the work in. I mean, 900 rounds a year or whatever you said. God, that just blows my mind. And so it's just a great story, and it deserves to be on. You need to get on some more podcasts, man, and tell the story about this hunt, and hopefully too, like it highlights for folks that, like, I don't know, that go on these kind of hunts that make it happen like this. What Rodger's talking about, this is shining that kind of same positive light on you guys too, because it's those guys that go out there and bust their ass. This is the kind of result you're going to get. You're not going to get it playing Nintendo. What is the games they have now? It's not Nintendo anymore, is it?
Dude. They probably still got PlayStations and Xboxes, I would imagine.
Whatever they are, if you're into that's your thing. Either way, but you're not going to kill a bear. You're not going to kill an elk. You're not going to kill a deer. Sitting around doing that kind of stuff. So, I just, again, man, congratulations on a great hunt, dude. I'm super proud of you. You deserved it, and I appreciate you coming on the show. and talking about it. Any closing thoughts?
Oh man, for people that want to geek out on this stuff, there's some really good podcasts out there that get into the real technical side of stuff.
The Western Huntsman, you mean?
Yeah, there you go.
No,
right there, that one. But no, seriously, you have like the School of September you got going on. Like, you got some super knowledgeable people that are coming on doing this kind of stuff, and man, I love it.
They make the show, man. The guests are what make this show. Dudes like
guests
you
wouldn't be on here without you there, though. You know what I'm saying? So
all I do is facilitate.
Don't sell yourself short. So that, the podcast, like I mentioned before, Chris Wade's podcast, Straight Dope.
Yeah. I wrote that one down.
The Modern Day Sniper podcast, Phil Vallejo, Kalen Wojcik, they do a great job breaking down all this stuff. They got a YouTube channels and stuff, and all the social media.
What was that second one you mentioned?
The Modern Day Sniper podcast.
Modern Day Sniper, okay.
Yeah. But they go into real technical stuff too, positional shooting, all that. Those are two really good ones that I listen to quite a bit. There's a few of them, but those ones are good. Ron Spomer's podcast, the Joseph von Benedict's podcast, the Backcountry Hunting podcast. Those they get real technical into the cartridge caliber selection, things like that. So people want to geek out. Those are good ones too. But
yeah, I love it, man. I geek out on all sorts of podcasts, so I love getting podcast recommendations. And so, because I'm just always blown away with what you could learn on a podcast, and that's why I think I'm passionate about mine, is because I know, like for me, I need to learn more. I don't know enough, if that makes sense. And so it's nice having all these, and you could find a podcast on anything. I mean anything. If you want to learn how the ancient Polish people weaved baskets, you could learn that on a podcast somewhere. And so it's super cool.
No, definitely. Like,
love the technology.
Yours is super knowledgeable based on the tactics and the hunting side of things. Those other ones I mentioned are specifically the Straight Dope and the Modern Day Sniper. There's another one called Just F and Send It. There's a bunch of them that are geared more towards the shooting, the wind reading, the data. Yeah, the super technical shooting side of things. That, man, I got nothing but time. Like, my wife and kid are asleep right now, and I'll be up until 1 a.m. Like, just the shift I'm on. So it's great times to sit there, especially School of September. Man, I download all these and I sit there and listen to them as I'm tinkering in the garage doing the dry fire practice or reloading.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. So
you're very welcome.
Well, thanks again for coming on, man. This is a great conversation. Great story. I think, we're all going to enjoy it. I can't wait. I'll listen. This. I don't listen to all mine back, but I like to try. I want to. I try to, but like you just told me a couple of other podcasts to check out. So I'll be busy doing that. But this is one of the ones I definitely want to listen back to. I just can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing the story, brother.
You're very welcome, buddy.
We'll do it again, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, you have a great night, and thanks again.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Take care.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.